Welcome to the Scenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, if you've ever walked down that supplement aisle in a pharmacy, you know what I mean? There's just rows and rows promising better brain power.
It's overwhelming, isn't it?
It really is. And right at the front, usually, is fish oil.
Always fish oil.
With global concerns about cognitive decline rising, things like Alzheimer's, mild cognitive impairment, or MCI, it's no wonder millions are asking, is this simple capsule like the cognitive insurance policy we're all hoping for?
That's the million-dollar question, really.
So our mission today is to try and cut through some of that noise. We're taking a deep dive into the research, into your sources, to figure out what fish oil, specifically its main components, EPA and DHA, what it actually does for memory.
And importantly, who really stands to benefit? Because it's not necessarily everyone.
Right. So where do we start? These omega-3s.
Okay, yeah. The starting point has to be understanding what these fats are. We're talking about EPA and DHA, which are omega-3 fatty acids. And crucially, they're essential fatty acids.
Essential meaning?
Essential meaning your body just can't make them from scratch. You absolutely have to get them from outside sources, either your food or, well, supplements.
Got it. So we need them, but our bodies don't produce them.
Exactly. And if we're zoning in on memory and cognitive performance, DHA is really the star player we need to look at.
DHA, okay. Why specifically DHA?
Well, your brain is surprisingly fatty. It's nearly 60% fat by dry weight. And a huge chunk of that fat is DHA. It's a major structural building block of the brain tissue itself.
Wow, 60%.
Yeah. So DHA is absolutely fundamental for keeping those neurons healthy, for maintaining their structure.
Okay, so if DHA is like the bricks and mortar for the brain cells, what's EPA doing? Because you almost always see them together in supplements.
That's a great question. EPA's role is a bit different, but still incredibly important. It's best known for its anti-inflammatory effects, really powerful ones.
Anti-inflammatory, okay.
So while it's less about the physical structure of the neuron compared to DHA, its ability to reduce inflammation throughout the body and improve circulation that has a huge knock-on effect for brain health and, even mood and mental well-being.
So they work as a team, essentially.
Precisely, a synergistic team. And just to ground this, where do these oils come from? We're talking about highly concentrated oils from the fatty tissues of oily fish. Think salmon, sardines, mackerel, anchovies. Those are the typical sources for good quality supplements.
The usual suspects. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit more. We know they're essential. We know where they come from. But how does swallowing a fish oil soft gel actually lead to, sharper thinking or better memory? That's the leap many people question.
Right, the mechanism. And it's fascinating because research suggests there isn't just one way, but maybe 4 key ways these omega-3s seem to help brain function at that cellular and physiological level.
4 ways. Okay, let's break them down. What's the first one?
The first one goes back to what we just talked about, structure. DHA literally gets built into the cell membrane of your neurons.
Right, the building block.
Exactly. Think of your brain cells like tiny wires. DHA helps keep the outer layer, the insulation, flexible and fluid, not stiff and brittle.
And why is flexibility so important there?
Well, think about it. If the cell walls become rigid or damaged, the signals they send and receive get slow and inefficient. It's like static on the line.
Ah, okay.
So by keeping those neuron membranes pliable, DHA helps ensure that signals zip back and forth efficiently. And that physical integrity, that efficient signaling, is absolutely crucial for learning new things and, importantly, locking in long-term memories.
That makes sense. But building structure sounds like a slow process. Wouldn't that take months, even years, to show an effect? Some people report feeling sharper much sooner.
That's a fair point, and it leads us nicely into the second and third mechanisms, which can have more immediate effects.
Okay. Mechanism 2.
Mechanism 2 is largely driven by EPA, reducing chronic inflammation. We now understand that persistent low-level inflammation is like a slow burn for the brain. It really accelerates neurodegenerative processes.
Kind of like rust on the machinery.
That's a good analogy. It damages things over time. So ETA helps to dampen down that inflammatory fire. It's less about building new brain cells and more about cleaning up the environment so the existing cells can function properly without being constantly under attack.
Right, protecting what's already there. Makes sense. And mechanism 3, you mentioned circulation earlier.
Exactly. Mechanism 3 is all about blood flow. Good supplementation seems to improve cerebral blood flow, the circulation going specifically to your brain.
And the brain needs a lot of fuel, right?
A huge amount. It's only about 2% of your body weight, but it hogs maybe 20% of your oxygen and energy.
Yeah.
So if you can improve that blood flow, essentially clearing the roads to your brain, you ensure it gets the constant supply of oxygen and nutrients it needs to stay sharp, focused, and quick with recall.
Better supply, better immediate performance. Got it. Okay, that's 3. Structure, anti-inflammation, blood flow. What's the 4th?
The 4th is kind of the culmination of all these things, enhancing what scientists call synaptic plasticity.
Synaptic plasticity.
Sounds technical. It just means the brain's ability to adapt and change, to form new connections between neurons and strengthen the ones you already have. That's literally the physical basis of learning and memory.
So omega-3s help the brain rewire itself more effectively.
That's the idea. By supporting healthy cell membranes with DHA, reducing inflammation with EPA, and ensuring good blood flow, they work together to keep the brain adaptable and ready to learn. Critical for complex thinking, problem solving, and forming those reliable memories.
Okay, so the theory on a cellular level seems pretty solid across those 4 points. But let's be honest, the real-world research results often seem, well, confusing, mixed.
They definitely do. And that skepticism people feel, it's justified. If the benefits were huge and universal, we'd know it by now. Everyone would take it and the results would be undeniable.
So why the mixed results?
What the bulk of the research is telling us now is that the benefits aren't uniform. They seem to be most pronounced, most promising for specific groups of people, usually people who have some kind of existing need or risk factor.
Ah, okay. Not a one-size-fits-all solution.
Definitely not. And based on the sources, we can really pinpoint about 4 key groups where the evidence looks most encouraging.
All right, let's get into that. Who benefits most? Group number 1.
Group 1 is probably the most straightforward. Older adults who actually have low levels of omega-3s to begin with.
So correcting a deficiency.
Exactly. It's often not about creating a superpower. It's about getting back to baseline. Multiple studies show that if an older person is noticing some, subtle cognitive fuzziness, memory isn't quite what it was, and tests confirm their omega-3 levels are low, then supplementation often leads to measurable improvements in memory function. It helps restore those levels and potentially reverses that mild age-related slip.
Okay, that makes intuitive sense. Fix the deficiency, fix the problem. What about group 2?
Group 2 follows logically. Individuals who've been diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, MCI.
That stage between normal aging and more severe dementia.
Precisely. It's that gray area. And for this group, the goal of supplementation shifts a bit. It's less about reversal and more about potentially stabilizing things or slowing down further decline.
So hitting the brakes, maybe.
Kind of. The evidence suggests that starting early and staying consistent with supplementation might help slow the progression. We see some studies showing benefits in areas like executive function planning, organizing, and memory recall. It really underscores the idea that intervening early when the decline is still mild is probably key.
Okay, MCI patients. Now, the third group you mentioned, this one sounded particularly interesting, linking to genetics.
Yes, group 3. Carriers of the APOE4 gene variant.
And remind us, APOE4 is?
It's a specific gene type that's strongly associated with a much higher lifetime risk of developing Alzheimer's disease.
Right, a significant risk factor.
Hugely significant. And what's really profound here is the research suggesting a direct link between an environmental input omega-3 intake and this genetic predisposition.
So what does the research show for these gene carriers?
It suggests that for people carrying APOE4, getting enough DHA and EPA, starting early and being consistent with it, may offer real protective benefits. Specifically, it seems to help preserve brain volume.
Brain volume, meaning it slows down brain shrinkage.
That seems to be the implication. Brain atrophy or shrinkage is a hallmark of Alzheimer's progression, and it tends to happen faster in APOE4 carriers. So helping to maintain that volume could be a crucial protective mechanism.
Okay, but let's push on that a bit. If someone has this gene, which carries such a high risk, how much difference can a supplement realistically make? Does the research give any indication of how much or for how long you need to take it?
That's really the core of this whole preventative strategy idea. The emphasis in the studies is consistently on early and sustained intake.
Long haul, not a quick fix.
Absolutely. This isn't something where you take a high dose for a month before a big exam and expect miracles. The potential benefit preserving brain volume is slow, it's structural, it likely requires years of consistent intake, ideally starting in midlife, before any significant decline or brain changes begin.
So it's really about long-term brain maintenance for those at high genetic risk.
Exactly. Think of it like investing in your future brain health, especially if you know you carry that risk factor.
Okay, understood. Long-term commitment. And the fourth group. You mentioned children and adolescents. There are always stories about fish oil making kids smarter.
Yeah, the evidence there is a bit more nuanced. Observational studies do often link omega-3 intake in kids and teens with things like increased brain activity and a better attention,
Better focus.
possibly reduced hyperactivity, things that are definitely helpful for learning. However, the direct link to boosting long-term memory consolidation in the same way we see potential benefits in older adults, that data is still kind of mixed. It's not as consistent.
So maybe less about making kids fundamentally smarter in terms of memory capacity and more about helping with the mechanics needed for learning, like attention.
That seems to be a fair summary of the current state of research. It can certainly help create a better foundation for learning by improving focus.
Okay, so let's pull back for a second. We've identified these four groups who seem to benefit most, but we need to add the caveats, right?
Absolutely critical. We have to be really clear. Fish oil isn't a miracle cure. If your diet is already rich in omega-3s and your levels are high,
You probably won't notice much difference taking a supplement.
exactly, you might already be at your optimal level. And crucially, for individuals who are already in the advanced stages of Alzheimer's disease, the sad reality is that supplementation usually offers very limited cognitive benefits at that point.
The damage is too extensive by then.
It seems so, which really hammers home the central theme here. The value is primarily in prevention, or in slowing things down early on, not reversal of severe established disease.
That feels like the absolute key takeaway. We need to fundamentally shift how we think about omega-3s, not as a treatment after memory fails, but as, well, like you said, a long-term brain health insurance policy.
That's the perspective shift. Using them early, using them consistently, especially if you fall into one of those potentially higher benefit groups, to delay or perhaps even prevent decline.
Okay, so if listeners are thinking, right, I want to adopt this preventive strategy, what are the practical steps? How do we operationalize this?
Well, step one has to be awareness, linking back to those groups. If you know you have risk factors, maybe a family history suggesting genetic risk like APOE4, or maybe you're entering midlife and concerned about age-related changes.
I need to start early.
Yes. Don't wait for significant symptoms to appear. Midlife, or even approaching it, seems to be the ideal window to really commit to consistent intake if you're aiming for prevention.
And step two, you mentioned testing earlier. Should people actually be getting their omega-3 levels checked? Is that something realistic to ask for?
I think it's becoming much more realistic and, frankly, quite valuable. There's a test called the omega-3 index. It's a simple blood test measuring the percentage of EPA and DHA in your red blood cell membranes.
So it gives you a baseline.
Exactly. It tells you where you're starting from.
Okay.
If you're serious about a preventative strategy, knowing your score helps you personalize your approach, especially dosage, instead of just guessing. A low score confirms there's room for improvement.
Okay, so test, don't guess. What about diet? Can we get enough just from food?
Diet is absolutely foundational. We should always emphasize food first. Eating fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines a couple of times a week is great. And don't forget plant sources of the precursor omega-3 ALA, things like chia seeds, flaxseed, walnuts, hemp seeds.
But can those ALA sources effectively convert to the EPA and DHA we need for the brain?
The conversion rate is notoriously inefficient in humans, unfortunately, especially for DHA. So while those plant sources are healthy for many reasons, relying solely on them to reach therapeutic EPA-DHA levels for brain health, it's very difficult for most people.
Which brings us back to supplements for many.
For many, yes. Achieving that target range consistently just through diet is a real challenge.
Speaking of targets, what is the recommended dosage range, generally speaking, for just maintaining brain health if you don't have a known deficiency or MCI?
For general brain health maintenance and preventive support, the consensus from most reviews seems to land somewhere between 500 and 1,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA per day.
500 to 1,000 milligram combined.
Okay. Now, if tests show your levels are low, or if you're managing diagnosed MCI, your doctor might recommend higher doses, often guided by that omega-3 index result.
Right. Personalized dosage based on need. And that leads to the final crucial step you mentioned, integration. It's not just about the pill.
It absolutely isn't. No supplement works in isolation. We call it lifestyle integration. To get the best possible results from omega-3s, you have to combine them with other healthy habits.
Like what?
Regular physical exercise, which, by the way, also boosts the blood flow to the brain. A balanced whole foods-based diet overall, managing stress effectively, and getting enough good quality sleep. These things all work together.
Synergistically.
Yes. Ignoring those other pillars really limits the potential benefits you might get from the supplement alone.
Makes sense. So before anyone rushes out to buy high-dose fish oil based on our chat, what's the essential final warning?
The non-negotiable advice? Always talk to your doctor or healthcare provider before starting any new supplement regimen. Seriously.
Especially
if you're already taking other medications, particularly blood thinners, as omega-3s can have a mild blood thinning effect too. Or if you have existing chronic health conditions, fish oil is generally safe, but interactions are possible, and personalized medical advice is just crucial.
Absolutely. The vital safety check. Okay, let's try to wrap this up by quickly summarizing the main findings. We've established the fish oil supplements, specifically EPA and DHA, seem to offer the most evidence-backed cognitive benefits for 4 key groups.
Right, that's older adults who start with low omega-3 levels.
Individuals diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, aiming to slow decline.
Carriers of the APOE4 gene looking for long-term protection.
And potentially younger people looking for support with attention and the mechanics needed for learning, though the memory link is less clear there.
And the overarching insight.
The core message is crystal clear. Fish oil's biggest value seems to lie in prevention or slowing decline if it's used early and consistently as part of a broader healthy lifestyle. It's not a magic fix for established severe memory loss.
Precisely. Prevention is key.
So, thinking about all this, what does it really mean for you listening right now? If early action and knowing your risk factors like your APOE4 status are so critical, does this fundamentally change how we should approach health planning in our 30s, 40s, 50s?
That's a powerful question.
Should we be shifting focus much more aggressively towards prevention, including proactive testing, rather than just waiting to treat problems? And beyond supplements, what other immediate steps should you be exploring now to really safeguard your cognitive function for the future? That's definitely something to think more about.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scenario Podcast. Don't forget to visit scenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.